It's Carter, and there's something very serious to go over here. Very serious. Because it's World War III type serious. Okay? The situation in Ukraine is getting increasingly out of control. We have a senile president with toxic dementia, just flare-ups of anger over and over again, surrounded by neocon warmongers who have actually convinced themselves that the United States should declare war on anybody and everybody in order to establish U.S. hegemony, and it's just not going to work. The rest of the world no longer wishes to be dominated by the United States and have to abide by its dictates. That's why you have the BRICS nations coming together to offset U.S. dollar domination. And it's why you have countries all over the world banding together and telling the United States, no more, we've had it. Look, African nation after African nation are telling the U.S. just get out. Ortega in Nicaragua has made it clear he will not stand for a CIA takeover there, as it's done in so many other Central American countries. Bukele, president of El Salvador, has told the U.S., mind your own damn business, his words. Then you have the Ukraine. Look, maybe you're one of those who, put the little blue and yellow lapel pin on and put the flag in your front yard. That awful Russian people, Putin is another Hitler. Stop it. Stop it. The United States tried to turn Ukraine into a massively armed base on Russia's border. Donbass, the people of Donbass spoke Russian, considered themselves Russian, and were tired of being murdered, mass murdered, by Zelensky and other U.S. installed, don't forget the Maidan coup, U.S. installed dictators in Ukraine, even after we had promised twice in the Minsk agreements, not once, twice, not to do that. And so after 14,000 of the Russian-speaking citizens of Donbass were murdered in bombardments, continual, and it became clear that Putin, that he had been lied to in the Minsk agreements, both Minsk agreements, Macron and the little German Frau president have admitted that now. Then yes, he did have a special military operation. So now, 2 years later, that military operation has swept across Donbass and is moving rapidly through other areas of Ukraine around Donbass. And I'm going to tell you something. We're being lied to by the U.S. administration. How many times, as Russian troops have moved increasingly into Ukraine, has Biden said, Putin's losing the war. Putin has lost this war. He's lost it. Those were lies. What did he say last week? The Russian army is decimated. The Russian army is 1 million strong now. The Russian economy is strong. This war is over, except for one thing. The United States wants it to continue. We never intended to win, to defeat Russia. We intended to try and provoke an overthrow of the Russian government, yet another color revolution, the dismantlement of Russia, the military feat on the battlefields. The generals have admitted now that was never the goal. It was just to put Russia under more and more pressure. So that's 500,000 young Ukrainians dead later. We're escalating again because of a president with toxic dementia, surrounded by a bunch of neocons who have actually convinced themselves that we need to make war on the rest of the world in order to conquer it, and it's not going to work. Biden's latest order to escalate the Ukraine war is telling Zelensky, who's just a crazy little grifter, okay, now you can go ahead and shoot missiles anywhere you want in Russia. We're arming them with long-range missiles of the most powerful type, just this short of nuclear, and telling them they can now launch those missiles anywhere they want into Russia. Moscow, St. Petersburg, small towns and communities throughout Russia. That's madness. Now, how do we think Russia's supposed to react? Well, let me read you a quote. Can I read you a quote? It's an old quote. It's an old quote. Matter of fact, it's from October 22nd, 1962. It's when the old Soviet Union did to us in Cuba what we are doing to Russia now, putting in missiles and telling Cuba, launch them anywhere you want into the United States. Same exact thing. Here is the third key point from John Kennedy's television address about what's now known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I remember this line. Kennedy looked straight in the camera and said, now relate this, please, relate this to what Biden is now doing in Ukraine. The madness. Here we go. You ready? This is a quote. It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile attack launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere, you ready, as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States, here we go, requiring the full retaliatory response upon the Soviet Union. Now, we know now, Kennedy had made it clear to Khrushchev it wasn't just nuclear missiles, it was any missile. If you fire any missile, Mr. Khrushchev, from Cuba against the United States, we will consider that missile not having come from Cuba, but having come from the Soviet Union, and our response will be against the Soviet Union. Folks, Putin has every right to say the same damn thing to us now. And I think he's going to. If those missiles start firing into civilian populations of Moscow, St. Petersburg, the other wonderful cities of Russia, he has every right to tell us we consider your missiles that you told Ukraine to fire into our country as an attack upon us by you. And we're going to respond with an attack upon you as a retaliatory measure. That's where toxic Joe Biden and his neocon madmen have now led us. And we better write to our congressmen, every one of us, call their offices and say, knock it off. Knock it off. Little Mikey Johnson, had you not okayed, had you not pushed through after you lied to the American people, the $68 billion of additional aid to Ukraine, to Zelensky, that little madman, this would have never happened. So get in there and stop this nonsense before you cause a nuclear war, folks. I always tell you, let's do this thing. This time I'm going to tell you, we better damn well do this thing.